I'm Grace, like they said. I am a senior, not a super cool 5th year like the other two, but I will be one next year, so if you're around, I'll be here. I'm pretty nervous. Got some acid reflux going, which is super awesome. And I've been told I don't really like breathe during these things, so like, y'all are gonna help me out, and we're all just gonna like take a deep breath, so. Okay, here we go. All right, so, I'm so nervous. Okay, I'm gonna talk a little bit about my experience in FCA, and then also like why I feel like it's important to still serve as an upperclassman. So, coming into freshman year, like the summer before, I had a girl that went to my church that also went to Clemson, and she was like, hey, let's meet for coffee, and so we did. And she told me about FCA, told me like about all the things you can get involved in. I was kind of confused, to be honest, but then I was just like, whatever, I'm gonna go. I went to FCA. I like loved Thursday nights, was in her small group actually. Her name's Maddie, just if I like reference her name's Maddie. So I was in her small group for a couple years actually. Freshman year, I like realized I wanted to get plugged in, so I just like applied for servant teams. I think I like clicked like 7 of them, and ended up on welcome team with Adam, which is actually really sweet. And was on welcome team, was leading a small group, was in a small group, and then junior year had just like applied again, and ended up on prayer and encouragement team, which was awesome. Was in a small group, led a small group, and now I'm a senior, and all I do is freshman outreach, and that has been like a huge blessing to me. So that's kind of like overarching my experience in FCA, and then that will be important later when I like mention little things. So now I'm going to kind of talk about why it is important to still serve as an upperclassman, because obviously I think it's valuable because I'm doing it, I guess. So what I've noticed over the past couple years is that there are like leadership positions, whether that's like small group leader, bear group leader, head of an outreach team, on actual leadership, like whatever it is. And like those roles are like super important, and like if you feel called to those roles, you definitely should like do them. And I've realized like a lot of those are like logistics, like you have to like come up with like, okay, what's the mission of this team like for right now, and like how are we gonna get it done? So there's like a lot of logistics that go in with that. And in order for those things to happen, you actually need people to like that are upperclassmen to help carry out that mission. So like, for example, I'm on freshman outreach, and the Lord has really been able to use me on this team, which has been such a blessing, and I've had the opportunity to encourage my leader, and like the people on my team, the underclassmen, the in-betweens, the whatever, which has been really sweet, and I've seen the value of like simply just being consistent and like showing up. And I've actually had a lot of margin to be able to invest in the team and like what we're doing, because like all I'm doing this year is freshman outreach. So I've had like a lot of opportunity just to be able to like show up and be there and like be committed to serving like wherever I've been placed, which has been cool for me. And simply because I've been in FCA for 4 years and like kind of like seen how it's gone, I've been on like multiple teams and things. I've been able to like give freshman outreach some ideas of like, oh, how can we do this, or what would be good with this, because I've just like simply seen it happen before. So that has been cool, just to be able to like contribute to a team by like encouraging and like showing up and like giving ideas. So that just like shows that you can be a valuable member just by serving and like not like in a specific role. To give another example, like we went to Chicago, woo, that was like so awesome. And there's like maybe like 7 people on the missions team, correct me if I'm wrong, but like they do such a great job putting in like so much work to decide on the city and to decide on like which sites we're gonna go to, and there's like 25 groups, but like there's no way that anything would happen if we didn't show up and actually go and serve in those ways. So like whether you're like a leader or just like a member of the team, like the actual mission of the mission trip wouldn't have happened if we didn't have people there to like carry out that mission, if that makes sense. And also like even more than that, like there are 7 of them and maybe like whatever 200 other people that actually went on the trip, and like 7 of them can't pour into the 200 others. And so like that's where like they do the logistics and we fill in relationally. So like we need people, especially upperclassmen, that like have a little bit more wisdom, a little more experience, like whatever, to like pour into maybe like that freshman in your group that like doesn't know the Lord, or the person that like really is feeling lonely right now, or whatever. Like you need those people in order for like all these things to happen. And a lot of the time, like those relationships are why people keep coming back, because they're like, oh, these people love me and they're really cool for whatever reason, and like they are doing a good job like serving, and so like that is what like is gonna not only bring people back to FCA, because like that's not the whole point, but like to point them to Christ as well. So a cool way I've been able to see like the value of upperclassmen who continue to be involved play out in my story is like through two different things. So Maddie, who I was talking about earlier, she was like my small group leader for a couple years. She lives in New York now and actually like is the best ever. She was always like serving in FCA. She was always like doing something, whether it was like actually in a leadership role or not. She was always like there and was encouraging us to serve. And she, even more than that, she was like invested in our lives. Like I said, she lives in New York, and she like will still text me or call me, or like is praying for the mission trip, praying for like the leadership team. Like she asked me this year, she's like, "Who's on leadership?" So I can pray for them, which is like awesome because she's 2 years removed from Clemson and like continues to pray for this ministry. So she's just like been super invested in my life and like all the other girls in that small group too, which has been like such a blessing. And then secondly, I didn't go to the Hills my freshman year, but I wish I did. There were a couple of my friends actually did go, and there were a couple of upperclassmen that went to the Hills that were like super invested in their lives, and I got to meet them through my friends that actually went to the Hills, if that makes sense. And they were just kind of like always there. They were like hanging out, going to like freshman events, like inviting me to things, inviting me on their intramural teams. Like, I don't know, I just like always felt super valued and included and wanted, and like they kept me coming back to things like whatever event was going on because I knew that they would be there and they would be fun and they would be nice, and like I felt loved. And at the end of the day, like that is a reflection of the love of Christ, which is really cool because they're just able to like love us where we're at. Like they didn't have to come to the freshman outreach, like whatever, but they did. And like if we look around this room, there's like a lot of seats filled up on Thursday nights a lot of the time. Maybe like 800 people, give or take, that come to FCA, but probably only like, these are completely ballpark, I don't know, but like maybe like 300 people that are actually serving are like in a small group, and that means there's like 500 other people in these seats that like haven't been reached or don't like feel super included, or like maybe are like, we don't know their stories, maybe they're having a hard time, maybe they're just like curious about Christianity, like who knows. But we actually have the opportunity to seek those people and invite them into the community that we've been invited into. Like Quinn was saying, like if you've had an upperclassman pour into you and like you are here because of them, like we have the opportunity to do that for other people that we might not even know need it. Okay, this is where I have breathe in here, so. Okay, here we go. A little bit more, and then we're good. Okay, so 1 Corinthians 9:19 is up there, yep. So, for though I am free from all, I have made myself a servant to all that I might win more of them. So, this is like, if you don't know, this is like FCA's verse or whatever. It's on the sweatshirts if you need a reference. But like pretty much the whole point is to bring more people to know Christ and like meet them where they're at and just like be a light by being like a servant. So, at the end of the day, like we should feel encouraged as upperclassmen to continue to serve, or just like reach out to new people, reach out to somebody that like might need you. Like you might know that they need you, but you might not know that they need you, but they do. And you can like be the person to help them feel seen and loved like you were, or like you like maybe wish that you were at that point in your life. And at the end of the day, like you don't have to be in any specific role to do this. There's no like set way to do it or anything like that. And for me, freshman outreach has been like such a joy to serve on, and I didn't really like start in my time at FCA with like a specific leadership role, but all we're called to do, like 1 Corinthians 9:19 says, is to serve and to love others wherever God places us. So that's it. I'm glad I got through that with you guys to witness. So now Adam, who is just so much cooler than me, is gonna come talk.
Quinn left his whole book up here. So, my name's Adam. I am really excited to be here. I am a fifth year, like they said. Really old, been here a long time, and I've gotten the opportunity to serve in a lot of ways and meet a lot of people. And as I've been here for like 3-4 years, I've gotten to learn some things that I just want to share with you guys. And the first one is all of us in this room have the gift of influence. God's just given it to us. And then The other thing I want to talk about is the margin that we need to actually use that influence. Both of them reference margin, but I'm going to try to define that better. So influence and margin are my 2 points if you're writing anything down, but if you're not, that's totally okay. So the things that come to our mind when we think about gifts are just like immediately teaching and prophecy and healing. There's all these things that are in those big list chapters, but like Quinn said, there's practical gifts that come along with that, like having an easy major and like time that comes along with an easy major. I don't know why you're laughing, Pete. Or like having a lot of couches. Like if you have a bunch of couches in your room, that's a blessing. Not your room, nobody would have couches in their room. In your living room. And one of those gifts that God has given all of us is influence, which is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of somebody. That's just the Oxford definition. But this is a gift that you guys just get for being old. Freshmen look up to you. You do not have to have a position or a title. You do not have to be popular, and you do not have to be wise. This is just something that you get for being old. And whether you deserve it or not, freshmen think that you are cool. And in turn, they want you to think that they are cool. And so, your words with freshmen and your attention and your presence carry a lot of weight. And that is something that God has given us and something that we have a responsibility to steward. And so what that looks like genuinely is just finding somebody younger than you and somebody that doesn't know as much as you, which is not that hard to find, I promise, and just showing them that you care about them. So when I was a sophomore, I became a Christian, and I signed up for the Philly mission trip, joined a team, show up first meeting, and I walk in there and meet my leader for the first time. His name is Brandon Cribb. Probably none of you know him. And he was tall and goofy and just gorgeous. And I love this man. I love him so much. And second week, I come in there and I'm sitting in the pew in FBC or whatever it's called. And I'm just sitting there talking to nobody because that's just how I do. And Brandon walks up to me with this big smile on his face, and he just comes up to me, and I'm sitting there, and he just punches me on the knee, and he's like, "What's up, man? I've been thinking about you a lot." And I was just like, he's been thinking about me? Why has he been thinking about me when he'd be thinking about himself? And like, that just launched me. Like, it was 6 words, and I counted them, you don't have to check me. 6 words that just, like, I'm here 3 years later, standing on stage, talking to 100 people about how he told me he's been thinking about me. And like, you guys are that guy now. Like, you get to say 6 words and have it launch somebody. And that is just something that we use. So like, your presence and your attention carries so much weight. And so, like, go find a freshman or a younger person that's on the team you're on, or in your small group, or someone that's standing alone at FCA. FCA, I don't know why I said FCA. And I just want to pause real quick, because I've heard a countless number of people say, what would FCA look like if we all just found that person that's sitting alone and like sat with them? And I don't know what FCA would look like, because I've literally never seen somebody do it. And I'm not saying that to like make you feel bad, but I'm challenging you. Go talk to some freshman that's standing alone before or after FCA, or go sit with them. And if you want to get really crazy, go stand with the welcome team and ask them as they're walking in, do you have somebody to sit with? And just see what happens. It is like, it doesn't require that much effort. They really just need to know that somebody cares about them, and you guys get the opportunity to do that.
Yes, sir.
And so, something that holds us back, I think, from using such a simple gift is that we don't leave any margin in our lives, which is something that they all talked about. And margin basically is just the time and the energy that you have left over after your responsibilities. And something that I think happens to a lot of older people in FCA is we want to make an impact so badly, which is just an awesome goal. Like, I want to make an impact. I'm sure you want to make an impact. And that's like a good pursuit. But we spend so much time trying to give ourselves opportunities to disciple and people to meet to disciple that all of a sudden we just don't have any room to actually disciple with people. So I have a meeting here, meeting here, meeting here, and just can't meet with people. And so for me, what that looked like was 1 year ago, I was working in co-op, woke up super early, drove super far, worked super long, drove home, went to a meeting or led something or whatever, literally every single night of the week, Monday through Friday. And then Saturday, I just died. And then Sunday, I was in church all day long. And so I literally just didn't have the bandwidth to actually invest intentionally in any of the people, in the things that I was doing. I never prayed for anything that I did. I didn't pray for my bear group that I was leading, or the Hills group, or Charleston, or whatever. And then I couldn't meet with those people. And so the most prominent example for me is my Charleston group, and they're all, more than half of them are in here. I love those people so much. And I went to Charleston with them, and we had such a good time. And there were 3 dudes in there, and I just loved them so much. And I was so excited to disciple them. And we came home, and I never hung out with them ever again. And and that still weighs heavy on my heart. And it's not because I didn't love them, I just couldn't do it. And that's not to say God didn't use those things as I was just being crushed by responsibility. God absolutely used them and taught me things in that. But there were just relational pieces and intentionality that I just had to miss. And so coming into this year, I really wanted to cut back to be able to have that margin and be intentional and use those gifts that God has given me. And so what that looked like for me was just saying no to stuff. I know that we all want to join literally every team that exists, but sometimes you just can't do everything. So my church came to me and asked me to do more things, and people at FCA asked me to join teams or serve or lead or whatever, and I just had to say no to them. And so I got my bear group, got my church serving role, and I chose a couple freshmen from the Hills, and I am able to pour into those things and be intentional with those people. And so I know what's going on in the lives of my bear group guys and the freshmen that I care about. And I know where they are, and I can pray for them, and I can text them and encourage them. And what margin does is when I don't have a meeting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I have these big blocks of time that I can push around. And so if somebody from my bear group comes to me and says, hey, I'm really struggling with this, I move something, and I go meet with them, and I care for them, and I pray for them. And it just allows you to be more attentive to what God is calling you to do in the ministries and the ways that you're serving. And side note, I just want to say we're freeing up time to do the ministry God has called us to do and not to go become professional spike ball players on Bowman. So, not roasting spike ball people. Spike ball is awesome. But, look for people to be intentional with. Don't just use all that time for yourself. We're making this for God and for the kingdom. And so, real quick, if you, identify with that first example that I gave, could you just raise your hand? Just overwhelmed with responsibilities and just have no time. I am not up here to discourage you guys. I feel your pain. I know that it is really hard and it is so awesome that you want to serve. But going into next year, I want to challenge you guys as serving teams and small group leader applications and church things roll around and get opened. I want you to ask yourself what it looks like to say no to stuff. And then I want you to ask yourself, where do I want to be intentional? Where do I want to invest? Who do I want to care for? And then use the gifts that God has given you in order to build the kingdom in those roles. So we're going to take some time to pray about that. Ryan's going to come lead you guys just through some prayer prompts. And I hope that you guys are honest with yourselves and this is beneficial.
Awesome. So
For the next couple minutes, we have some prayer prompts that should be up on the screen right behind me. So if we could just take the next couple minutes, it would be extremely naive and arrogant for us to just walk out of here without taking time to just reflect and spend some time in prayer to ask God to be working in our hearts and take the messages and the words that we just heard and let them apply to our lives. So the next couple minutes, we're just going to individually spend some time in prayer over these different points that are on the screen behind me.